So I have a few questions. One is Ganga Leela brought up last week that we didn't get to, and also Tunga Rasa had a question as well. So who should we start with?
Tunga Rasa, because I actually don't remember my question. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, it was about the Maha Mantra.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. All right, Tunga Rasa's question then. So Tunga Rasa brought this up when we met in London a couple of weeks ago. But actually, you wrote me the question. It was different from what I've remembered. So let me see. So your question was in regard. So for those of you who don't know, we've been doing an Upadeshamrita challenge. Oh, Jason, no problem. You can go into stealth mode. Actually, today everyone's pretty good. Most of our friends have their cameras on. Usually 90% have them off. So. But today somehow it's very nice. Everyone has their camera on today. So no problem. So we've been doing an Upadeshamrita challenge, going through these 11 verses of Srila Rupa Goswami. And the question is, I could think somebody needs to turn off their mic. Maybe Lynn, is that you? Oh, thank you.
I think I solved it.
Okay. So the question is in regards to the 4th verse of Upadeshamrita, which talks about the four or is it 5? Loving exchange, or is it 6? 6, sorry. 6, okay. Thank you, Chinmoy. 6 loving exchanges, which are, Chinmoy, please tell us.
I'll give a couple.
Okay.
Exchanging and giving gifts.
Yes. Okay. Somebody else.
Giving and accepting prasadam.
Okay, very nice. And there's one more, exchange.
And revealing your mind in confidence or something like that.
Yeah, well, you can guess it, right? What's the opposite of that?
Revealing one's mind in confidence, and also my brain's not working. Sorry.
To hear in confidence.
Yes. Okay.
To share and to also receive in confidence. Yes, beautiful. To inquire and also to receive guidance. So yes, very nice. So then it's to do with the negative connotation, how to deal with the external world, be kind and affectionate toward others who are non-devotees, and at the same time to not be influenced by them. On the other hand, we are supposed to share with others our attraction to Krishna consciousness. How can we do that without opening our hearts? How can we harmonize? Actually, this dilemma comes up for me again and again. However, we are also advised to see our own fault in every situation. Maybe you can kindly reflect on this subject. Okay, it's a nice question. And you know, there's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam which I think answers this question. There is a part in Srimad Bhagavatam where there are descriptions of the 3 different classifications of devotees. You know, what is the nature of the Kanishta, the beginner level practitioner? What are the characteristics of the Madhyam Adhikar Vaishnava, the middle class Vaishnava? And then the Uttam Adhikar Vaishnava. What are the characteristics of the Uttam Adhikar Vaishnava, the highest class devotee? And you know, we will think of ourselves as being in the most beginner class, you know, Kanishta Adhikar. However, the characteristics of the middle class Vaishnava are very helpful for us. They offer a model. because the characteristics of the highest level Vaishnava, they are not so helpful for us because they're not applicable for where we are in our current stage. And we also don't want to follow the example of the lowest class Vaishnava, right? But the middle class Vaishnava gives us a model for which we can try to strive towards. The highest, so for example, to elaborate, the highest level Vaishnava is described that they see Krishna everywhere. They are never deviated from Krishna consciousness, from fulfilling Krishna's will, Krishna's desire. They're always living in love of Krishna and seeing Krishna in every time, place, and circumstance. And so they have this power, and they naturally have this potency, so they can naturally transform their environment. They can move in the environment, navigate the environment in a very different way. They're seeing God everywhere. They're seeing Krishna everywhere and everything. So if we imitate that, we will be in trouble. If we try to pretend that we are seeing God in every situation, we will be in trouble. If we are seeing black and white, it will be foolish to pretend that we're only seeing white. It won't be helpful for us. It's like, let's say we memorize, it's like kind of like cheating an exam, right? We memorize all the answers, but we don't actually have the thought process behind, right? Then okay, maybe when you have this particular set of questions, you'll be able to pass the exam. But then if it comes at you in a different way, with a different permutation, you'll fail because you don't actually have the realization. So imitation is useless for us. But then the practice of the Madhyam, the middle class Vaishnava, is very helpful. And so the model that is presented there, these four approaches to four different types of persons are mentioned. So prema, it is mentioned that the middle class devotee, they will have prema, love for the Lord. Maitri, they will cultivate friendship with other devotees. Kripa, they will have mercy towards those who are ignorant, or those who don't know, or those who may have less wealth than we ourselves have. And finally, upeka, they will be indifferent to those who are inimical. So this last one is a kind of like a nice example of how we have to be aware of our limitations, because, for example, and I think Govinda Nandini and I were discussing this just the other day, that sometimes we see this kind of foolish mood of, saving the world, this misplaced feeling of heroism, and then someone goes in to save someone, and then they end up, becoming converted themselves. They go into the bar to save an alcoholic, but they end up, getting sucked into the drugs, alcohol themselves. I've seen many cases, or you go to try to forcefully preach someone your philosophy, and you end up getting converted to their conception. So this is an example. If somebody doesn't want to hear, don't, if someone's not interested, just avoid them. If someone is inimical, if someone is anti, just let them be. You don't need to force this upon them. Whereas someone who is of the highest level, a higher class Vaishnava, they naturally have this potency, just their divine presence. It has such a vibration that it can transform people's hearts. So like in the case of Nityananda Prabhu, right? This is a supreme example of Nityananda Prabhu. What type of potency does he have? And there's the famous example of him approaching Jagai and Madai, right? Who are these drunkard womanizers on the street. And he approaches them, requesting them, please take the name of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Please take the name of Gauranga. And they're like, get out of here. Like, we don't want to hear this. Get away from us. But Nityananda, he has such potency, even to such persons, he can change their heart. And ultimately they ended up becoming purified and became great devotees. But we cannot imitate that. So this is a very helpful model for us. And welcome, a few others have joined us, Dana and Jim, and also Ananta Krishna Prabhu, the dear brothers also here. Hi, Jim. Back to Jim. So going back to the specific question, you know, so mercy, right? Affection. We can also take the example of a child, right? The way that parents may relate with their children. No, you're not gonna, you know, just because you don't sit and have a full heart-to-heart with someone doesn't mean you can't have an affectionate, meaningful exchange, right? So it's like with children, you're not going to sit down and explain all your thought processes and everything that you're doing in your day and how you're feeling, you know. Oh, Jayadev. Dandavat Jayadev. Jayadev's here. So you're not going to sit down and you know, have a deep heart-to-heart with a 5-year-old. But you can still have an affectionate, meaningful exchange, right? You will have affection and mercy, you know, and you will try to help them, right? You will try to guide them. You will try to support them. One of Srila Saraswati Thakur's favorite expressions was, religion is proper adjustment. Religion is proper adjustment. So, you know, spiritual life is something dynamic and living, right? And all of these teachings, we need to learn how to apply them, how to adjust them in every time, place, and circumstance. So yeah, so, you know, and another thing is that, I don't know how clearly my meaning is coming through, but hopefully we'll get there. But another point is that, you know, it's a question of like maturing in Krishna consciousness, maturing in our spiritual life, because when we're less mature, there tends to be more of this dichotic way of thinking. You know, it's like it's this or it's that. You know, and you know, and there are some very extreme examples of that, like we hear in, you know, in the earlier days of the Krishna consciousness movement, some very fanatic mood, right? And anyone who's not a devotee of Krishna is a, you know, people come up with all kinds of creative karmi dogs, you know, all kinds of horrible things, you know, which we don't even want to repeat, you know, this like crazy type of fanaticism. It's an immaturity. It's a spiritual immaturity where you're just seeing black or white, and you can't see all the gray, right? And there's then in an immature stage, there's also an inability to integrate your Krishna consciousness, you know. And this is also mentioned in those 3 descriptions that I mentioned. One of the characteristics of what's referred to there as the Prakrita Bhakta, the beginner level devotee, is that when they're inside the temple, they may follow everything very perfectly. They may be more than anybody else, in fact. But as soon as they walk out the door, they forget everything. You know, their social life, you know, their free thinking is not guided by spiritual vision. But in a formal way, when they're in particular an environment, then they'll follow everything very perfectly according to the letter. You know, so their Krishna consciousness is not integrated. You know? So, you know, going back to this point here that Tungarasa has brought up, you know, in the beginning, in an earlier stage of development, we may see like there are the people inside and there are the people outside, you know, there are the people on the other side, you know, and they're outsiders, you know. But as we mature in spiritual vision, we will see that God is playing in everyone's heart. You know, our Gurudev, you know, his God consciousness, his Krishna consciousness was so deep that, you know, he's literally seeing God in everyone's heart. And he, like, atheism wasn't something he could really understand even. You know, he expressed once, I've traveled the whole world And I haven't met a single atheist. I haven't met a single atheist. It's like, well, Gurudev, I could probably come up with the list, if you want. Because he's seeing these people are just spouting words, they're latching onto labels, but he's seeing Krishna's in their heart. He's seeing God is dancing in their heart. And once you have that vision, you can't get past that vision. So he's seeing everyone is naturally God conscious by nature. So, as we mature in our spiritual vision, we'll feel more of this connectedness. We'll feel more of this connectedness. I remember one time when I was in Italy some years ago, and Avadut Maharaj was there at the same time, and Avadut Maharaj, he's so inspired and active and dynamic, and I remember there was a few of us sitting outside with him, and this was some of you have been to our Villa Govinda ashram. It's so beautiful, right? And it's surrounded by all these churches and the hills, and sometimes all the churches, the bells go off at the same time. Seva-rupa's just come from there, and it's this very beautiful experience hearing these beautiful church bells. Surrounds like 360 degrees, and so they started all going off, and Avadut Maharaj, he was very inspired. He said, I feel like everyone here is involved with this, like even if it's unconscious, he's like, it's all connected, like everyone here is in on this, like they're all part of this in one way or another. Like there's this symphony that's being drawn out, and they're all a part of it. The birds, the bees, the plants, the neighbors, they're all part of this. This actually Giriraj's symphony, right? The deity Giriraj is there. It's his symphony, and they're all a part of it, whether they're aware of it or not. So as we grow in our spiritual vision, that feeling will come to us more and more. That, and also that, and we'll be able, so this is what I want to say, that we'll be able to make this discrimination without this harsh, cutting type of mentality. Like feeling the, achincha beda bed, right? The oneness and the difference, feeling both, and knowing where we're connecting and where we're not connecting, How much are, it's not that it's us and them, it's not so black and white, but we can connect up to a certain level. And then going back to the first point I made, we can have that mood of, these are persons who are still developing, right? And I can try to, according to their receptivity, I can try to share with them, the beauty of these teachings. I can try to support them in their growth. Does that answer your question, Tungarasa? She's actually at work, she's.
Yes, I'm at work, yes. Yes, partially, yes. Yes, of course. This is very nice, like how can I say, overview.
Actually everybody is Krishna's devotee. Everyone is Krishna's servant.
Yes,
everyone's aware of it yet. They
Yeah.
just don't know it. They're not ready for it. So you don't have to tell them if they're not ready. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that they're not.
Actually, I was asking even exactly in this angle of vision. I meant, yes, this is why I put this non-devotee in this, what's name, this mark, this like not directly, but indirectly non-devotee.
But see, remember, Mahaprabhu's conception is achincha bed abed, right? There's always the oneness and the difference. And that this principle of Achinsya Beda Beda, it's applicable on so many points. You know, see, because if we go too much to the oneness idea, then we become Mayavadis and we become impersonalists, you know. Everything's just one, right? And there's no distinction at all. Then we're impersonal. On the other hand, if we go too far to the distinction view, then we become haters, right? That's not helpful either. That's not perfect vision. That's denying the potential also. So to go too far to the oneness or too far to the distinction, neither are helpful, neither are healthy or normal. But there's a middle path. There's always a middle path where we can appreciate the oneness and know where we can meet in oneness, and also appreciate where there's distinction and where we're making distinction. No. And then you also had a second question here. Say something about how we can maintain this consciousness of living totally on prasad while being physically away from devotees. Well, okay, so I mean, everyone here, I think, pretty much knows everything, but prasad, the word prasad means mercy, right? Means grace. You know, Chandra Jyoti, who is your friend here with you?
Doyamoy.
Doyamoy. Okay. Dandavat Doyamoy. Very nice to meet you.
To translate for him. I'm trying.
Okay. Very nice. So, you know, we use the word prasad generally to refer to what we eat, right? Blessed, sanctified food. But in a broader sense, it is also used just to mean mercy, grace, you know. And this is something quite fundamental to the life of a practicing devotee, of an aspiring Vaishnava, let's say, that we want to live on the Lord's mercy. We want to live on the mercy of the Vaishnavas. We don't want to live in a spirit of independence, no, but we want to, in a mood of assertiveness, aggression, but what is coming to us as the Lord's grace? You know, it is a consciousness to live in. You know? And what primarily comes to mind is this famous verse of Lord Brahma, you know, Tat Tenu Kampam Susamik, which many of you are familiar with. It's discussed a lot, especially by Sudarshan Prabhu. Tat Tenu Kampam Susamik Shamano Bunjane Vatma Kritam Vipakam Ridvagva Purbi Vidadannamaste Jiveta Yog Mukti Pade Sa Dayabak. You know, would somebody mind Chinmoy Prabhu or Govindanaji? You're always very good. You could put in the chat maybe that verse for reference would be helpful, I think. That this is describing someone who is an heir to the land of freedom. Thank you, Chinmoy Prabhu. It's here in our chat. So someone who it is mukti pade sa dayabak, jiveta yo mukti pade, someone who will soon be liberated from this world, who will soon achieve mukti. This is what is being described. What is the mentality? What is the consciousness of someone who is on their way to liberation from this world? And actually, when the main idea here is not to quarrel with our environment. And it's something Srila Sridhar Maharaj spoke about a lot. Several devotees have told me that when they met Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he personally gave them that instruction. That we should not quarrel. And my mother also, in one of her first meetings with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, she said, he like almost whispered it in her ear, don't quarrel with your environment. That will be your liberation. and a few other Aditi Nandan Prabhu, he told me a similar thing, and others. One time, one devotee, who did I hear this story from? I don't remember who, but I was surprised. Sometimes I'm surprised the extent to which Srila Sridhar Maharaj would apply this with this principle that somebody, they had some problem with their train, and so they were coming for Srila Sridhar Maharaj's Vyasa Puja celebration, but because of some problem with their train, they had missed it. They came a few days late, and they mentioned to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, "Oh, I'm very sorry, we missed the festival because of our delayed train." And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he answered, "Oh, it is not necessary to blame your environment." And when I heard that, I was like, wow, because it made me think, like, in my daily life, like, how many times a day do I say things like that? Like, how many times a day? Like, you're actually indirectly accusing the environment. Like, oh, the trains didn't operate according to my schedule, right? Or the weather didn't operate according to my schedule, or whatever, right? Like, it's just like, well, kind of like a normal way of thinking for us, right? You know, it's like, you know, it's like this subconscious thing, like we're in the center and everything's supposed to revolve around us, right? And if it doesn't, then, you know, the environment is to blame, you know. So what is being expressed here is this vision that what is coming to us from the environment, you know, Evatma kritam vipakam, atma kritam. Atma means the self. You know, krita is, you know, to do verb. So it is coming because of what I have done. You know, I am responsible. I am responsible for whatever is coming to me. There are no accidents, you know. As Srila Sridhar Maharaj says in one place, we are not victims of a chaotic environment. We are not victims of a chaotic, random environment. No chaos, all cosmos, he also says. You know, there is order and purpose behind everything, even though it may be very difficult to understand. And some people become atheists because of, I know people who become atheists because of that, because they cannot accommodate this idea. You know, why would God allow suffering to go on? But to me, I find that this principle more comforting, you know, that it makes more sense to me that there is order, there is rhyme, there is reason, not that random things are happening to people in a randomized way. To me, that makes much more sense. So this is the first thing mentioned here, you know, that, well, actually, it's the second thing mentioned, but I'm moving forward in a progressive, to higher levels of thinking. So this is more basic idea that to acknowledge that I'm responsible. I am responsible for my environment, what is coming to me, to, you know, even, you know, nowadays, like in general, kind of like self-help groups, right? They talk about this, right? Like own what's happening to you. Don't allow yourself to be a victim, right? They talk about that too. Don't allow yourself to be a victim of your, rise above it, right? This idea, take responsibility, own it, what's coming to you. So this is the base idea mentioned here. And then secondary point, to anukampa susamikshamano, means to seek the mercy of the Lord. Means to see how not only, and we were recently, not too long ago, we were making this comparison. It's a very interesting point of discussion to see some of the points of progression between Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, because you can see in many cases there's a level of instruction given in Bhagavad Gita, and then you find a parallel verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is going a step further, giving a deeper idea. So Bhagavad Gita is advising this tolerance, right? And there's that famous verse at the beginning of Gita, Machas Parshashtu Kunteya Sitoshna Dukkha Dukkha Agama Paino Nityas Tams Titikshvasva Bharata. Titikshvasva, tolerance. So this idea of tolerance, I'm responsible, so I will tolerate it. But here, anukampa means the grace of the Lord. That we will try to see how this is, it's not only that I'm part of some like kind of computer system, right? It's sort of like some big corporation, you know, that's calculating so many things, you know, incoming, outcoming, purchases, refunds, right? Debit, credit, right? There's like this machine calculating, like Mother Nature's in the background, calculating everything like this master computer, right? Okay, that's one level of, that's one vision. But to see deeper and see actually, it's not just like there's this mechanized system going on, but there's actually love behind this. There's actually affection behind this. There's actually mercy behind this. The mother coming to slap her child, you know, although I don't know, nowadays, maybe that's not politically correct. What should we say? Timeout. The mother sending her child for timeout. Maybe that makes us politically correct. No, it's not just that the mother wants to punish her child, right? But there's affection behind that. She wants her child to grow. She wants to have her child think about what they've done, you know, and to grow from that, to progress from that, right? So there's affection, there's mercy behind that, there's compassion behind that. So in this sense, that is prasad, right? Well, what is prasad? Prasad means what Krishna has approved. Krishna has partaken of that. Krishna has given his stamp. Yeah, this is okay, right? That's what prasad is. So this is a vision to live with in our lives. That what's coming to me, this is Krishna's prasad. You know, whether it's apparently good or apparently bad, like either way, you know, it's not always just about the grind and the suffering, right? There are also happy moments. You know? For sure, you know, this tenu kampam, you know, doesn't only mean the suffering, you know, everything. So that's what to live in that consciousness of prasad means. That, you know, whatever situation's coming before me, Krishna's mercy is behind that. It is his prasad. He's approved this and he's sending it to me. Krishna has partaken of this and he's sending it to me. This type of vision. It is a very, you know, deep way to see and to navigate with our environment. There was one incident, and many of you probably heard this story, but there was one incident we heard from Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj in London. Somebody called our Gurudev up and were speaking some abuse to our Guru. They were criticizing, complaining, something. It was some type of abusive language towards our Gurudev. And our Gurudev just quietly hearing that, didn't make any rebuttal. And then the phone call ended and our Gurudev hung up, and Goswami Maharaj is there like observing this, and he could hear some of the conversation, and he, you know, was very angry. And he said to our Gurudev, you know, next time, let me take that call. You know, like next time we get a call like that, I'll handle it. And our Gurudev answered so humbly and sweetly. He said, why is Krishna allowing me to hear these things? You know, why is Krishna allowing me to hear these things? That was his very humble way of thinking. For some reason, this is coming to me. You know, for some reason, Krishna wants me to hear this. So we will try to see like that, you know, it is the Lord's prasad. Mahalakshmi saying, does it exist a limit for tolerance in Krishna consciousness? Yeah, well, actually the factor here is not is there a limit, but what are we tolerating? You know, that's really the question. Yeah, in certain cases there is a limit, right? You know, it's, you know, this principle of tolerance doesn't mean that we will be doormats, right? But we can discuss that further. Okay, sorry, I have some other messages coming in here. Okay, we can discuss that another time. Yes. Tungarasa, does that answer your question?
Yes, very helpful. Very helpful. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay, it's a very nice point. Nice point. So going back to Mahalakshmi's question, you see, I mean, I think probably, I mean, you can elaborate if you'd like, but I think what you're referring to is when, well, I suppose like that example, where the recipient of abuse, right, from others. It depends on the circumstance, right? You know, like something like that, someone's giving some insulting words, you know, it's not such a big deal, right? But on the other hand, if somebody is, let's say somebody is physically attacking us, you know, or let's say somebody is persistently abusing us or compromising what we're trying to do, we're not gonna, you know, we're not gonna have this martyr mentality of like putting ourselves in situations where somebody's going to abuse us, right? Generally, we will try to avoid those situations, right? We will, if we know that somebody is attacking us, then generally we'll try to avoid, right? That we know it's not healthy for us. It's not supporting our positive, you know, progressive movement in life. So we will generally try to avoid those situations. But if they come to us from time to time, we will try to humbly accept, right? And then see, there's another important point here that helps to adjust many things, that the practitioner, the devotee, the aspiring devotee, you know, we will try to conceive of ourselves as existing within the relativity of our guru, of our divine master, right? I'll give you an example. You know, there was one occasion, and see, this is just what is so beautiful about Krishna consciousness. Like, it's so accommodating, it's so inclusive, it's just so perfect in every way. So this is the example I want to share, that one godbrother of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he had a bit of a fanatic nature, you know? And so he took some things very extreme, and he could be very literal in the way that he applied things. So for example, there's one famous occasion where there's a group of devotees traveling to go on pilgrimage somewhere. They're at the train station, and the train comes, and everyone gets on the train departs, but this one godbrother stayed behind in the platform. He didn't get on the train. And then later he was asked, like, what happened? Why didn't you get on the train with us? And he said, well, no Vaishnava told me to get on the train. Very fanatic. Very fanatic. And then there's this other occasion when, you know, which we can appreciate up to a point, right? This kind of simple-hearted application of the teachings, you know. But then there's this other occasion, I believe Srila Sridhar Maharaj was actually sharing a room with him. And I believe it was at the time of the, was it at the time when the Bhagavasar Mat was established? And I'm not exactly sure of the time frame, but I believe Srila Sridhar Maharaj was actually sharing the room with him. And if I have my time frame correct, it was on the night when there was this major festival, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj was utterly exhausted. He'd been like carrying big buckets of prasadam, like several kilos of weight on his head, and so, very exhausted, slept, rested deeply in the night. But meanwhile, his godbrother, he actually had a heart attack, in the middle of the night. He was going through some extreme distress in the night, but he didn't tell anybody because he didn't want to disturb anyone. So he's lying there in the room, everyone else is deeply asleep and going through all this, like his life is at risk, right? This is very serious medical condition, but he's feeling this humble mood. Oh, I don't want to disturb anybody, right? But then Srila Maharaj arises in the morning and he sees what's happening with his godbrother, and he attends to him and helps get him to a doctor. Sorry, turn off these notifications here. But Srila Maharaj, he was disappointed. He didn't consider that to be real humility. And here, this is the point of adjustment. This is it, that the disciple will consider that I am the property of my guru. I am the property of Krishna. I belong to them. I am my body is a temple of God, right? I am a servant of my guru. So in that consciousness, I have to take care of this. I'm taking care. See, this is the interesting point, and this is what I was trying to express, right? The devotees and the common person, many of the things that they do are exactly the same. The devotees may dress very nicely, put on nice makeup, do their hair very nicely, wear very nice clothes, right? They may make lots of money, and the common person in the world may do all the same things, but the standpoint is completely different, completely different. So this was Srila Maharaj's point. He said these are his words. He said the life of a disciple is very important to the guru. So the real thinking would be, oh, my guru will be very sad to know that I'm in distress, that I'm ill, that I'm not taking care of myself. So to make my guru happy, and to be able to do my service, I will take care of this body. And I may have to, like, real humility may mean that we go and ask somebody for help. We trouble them, right? We always like, oh, I don't want to trouble anybody. That can sometimes be a type of false humility. In order to do my service, I need to trouble people. I need to ask for help. There's this famous incident in Chaitanya Charitamrita when Sanatana Goswami decides to commit suicide. And we won't go into all the details, his reasons behind that. It's a bit of a story. But Sanatana Goswami decides he's going to commit suicide because he's feeling very offensive. And Mahaprabhu, of course, he's omniscient. So he comes to Sanatana and he says, what are you doing? Why are you thinking about this? He said, you are my property. You have no right, to destroy yourself like this. And then he even turns to Haridas Thakur and he says, oh, Haridas, can you believe what Sanatana wants to do? Like, who does he think he is? He wants to destroy somebody else's property. So this is how we adjust these things, No, we have to put ourselves in a healthy and wholesome environment. We have to avoid negative association, avoid abuse, avoid criticism, because we belong, we have a guardian. And if we don't take care of ourselves, we're giving more work to our guardian. Then they have to work harder, to take care of us, So everything will be adjusted in that way. But of course, sometimes it's unavoidable. These situations will come, and then we will try to adjust them in this way. They have come for some reason. You know, if so, let's say we realize that we are in an abusive relationship with someone, then what will be a progressive way of dealing with that? We're not going to go and blame that person, first of all. We're going to accept that I'm responsible. I've co-created this. I love this word, co-create. I've been hearing it from people lately. It's a very helpful word. I've co-created this situation, right? So I'm responsible. So I'm not going to blame that person. However, am I gonna stay in this relationship? Am I just gonna like think to myself, oh, I deserve this, I should stay in this, I'm responsible, I deserve it, I'm a demon, I'm terrible? No, that's also not healthy. You know, to go and react and to blame the other person, that's not healthy. But then to also just remain stuck in that situation, that's not healthy either. Say, okay, up to now, you know, I've had to be in this situation because I've somehow involved myself with my own free will. I've somehow got to myself involved. But now from this point, I'm going to withdraw quietly, humbly. I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to step away. I'm not going to perpetuate the situation. Now we can have a fresh beginning. You know. But I acknowledge, you know, I was a part of that, but now I'm going to move on, right? Now I'm going to move on. Because often, you know, I see that our response is one of those two, right? Those first things mentioned, that we don't see our own responsibility. We just want to blame the other person. And part of the difficulty with that and the danger of that is you actually entangle yourself more. When you go and blame somebody, then that makes them angrier, right? And then they're gonna be on your back. They want to they won't let you go if they feel like you're holding all this animosity towards them, right? Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he gave this very nice analogy once. He said that when somebody wants honor from you, somebody wants respect, and you don't give it to them, he said, then they will be like a ghost haunting you. They'll be like a ghost haunting you. No, they won't let you go. No. So this is one of the secrets to getting out of these types of relationships. You know, do it quietly, do it humbly. You know, give them respect, give them honor, and quietly back out. You know. Quietly back out. Because if you don't, then you're just creating this cycle. You're intensifying this cycle more and more. You'll get more and more entangled. So it's also important for that reason, you know, not to blame, you know, just quietly withdraw and then move on to some. But then this is the thing, right? That it takes courage. And I see many cases like people don't have the courage to move on to something more. They're afraid. It's a very heartbreaking thing to see, you know, someone's like suffering in a particular situation or a particular relationship because they're afraid if they let go of that, they won't have anything. Right? At least having trouble is better than having nothing, right? You know, at least having a bad abusive relationship is better than having no relationship, right? People told me things like this, right? They're afraid. No. So it takes courage. It really takes courage to be able to move, to enter into the unknown and to really depend on the Lord, depend on Krishna. No, now if I'm going to jump, will you catch me? You know, that type of leap of faith. You know. Gangalila, were you raising your hand?
No, it was like a applauding kind of thing.
Oh, it was
I
a
think
clap.
that was really relevant what you shared, and yes, I can relate very well to that. I really like what you said about be courageous, but don't be loud about it. Don't be, you know, taking down everything else with the withdrawal. You know, it's withdrawing is it doesn't have to be like a defeat where everything has to be destroyed in my trail.
Mm, mm,
The courage to do it quietly and thoughtful,
mm.
and also I think when we do it loud, we need approval from the outer world
Right, right.
that they were wrong and I am right. And Krishna consciousness is teaching me it's not so easy with this whole right and wrong. Like
Mm,
it's very hard to understand.
mm,
So yeah, no, I like that very much, what you said. Thank you.
mhm. Very nice. Thank you for sharing, Gangalila. And you know, we haven't heard from Rasaraj for quite a while. Do you want to? We'd love to hear some. You always have some very nice insights to share, Peru. Want to share anything?
Actually, I was listening while you was talking about that we have to accept the prasad, and I was remembering when Srila Govinda Maharaj was young in the temple, and then he was eating a plate of prasad, some dal that they have some insects floating on that, and Srila Guru Maharaj was looking at him, and he was talking to himself. He said, well, Guru Maharaj told me that I have to accept whatever I receive from him. But at the same time, looking at the insects floating there, we say, well, I received this from Gurudev, so I have to accept that. And then start to eat it. And I remember that part because it's a prasadam you receive from Guru. And even when it doesn't look like it's what you would like to eat, but he accepted. So that's what I say. Sometimes the prasadam is not completely what we like, but it's the mercy of Guru and Krishna. So
very nice, Peru. Thank you. Yes, it is. It's a nice example. The prasadam that we receive, you know, it may not always be pleasing to our taste buds, right? But it is mercy of Krishna. Very nice. Chinmoy Prabhu, do you want to add any final thoughts?
Well, just on tolerance too, because the example you gave for Gurudev receiving that phone call, he is tolerating that. He's trying to harmonize that. But the disciple, he is not tolerating that. Swami Maharaj is, no, let me talk to him next time. So there's another aspect to look at.
Thank you. And I'm imagining Chinmoy Prabhu was our Gurudev's personal servant for some years in India. So I'm imagining Chinmoy Prabhu would have that response. He's thinking of himself in that situation.
There's also very nice examples of the relationship between Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami on this point too.
Do you want to tell about that?
Well, just quickly, where that great Digvijay Pandit came to Vrindavan and he was defeating all the Pandits, and he came before Rupa and Sanatan, said, I want to debate you, and Rupa Goswami, he doesn't care, his ego's not involved, and so the Digvijay Pandit says, okay, sign this document, I've defeated you. And so Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, they sign it, they don't care. That's their type of humility. But when Jiva Goswami heard that they were defeated in this way, he was very upset, and he defeated that Digvijay Pandit and said, all my knowledge is coming from Rupa Goswami. And so you could see there that dichotomy that, Rupa Goswami, he's being humble and tolerant in one way, and Jiva Goswami, he's being humble and tolerant in another way.
Yeah, I'm really happy you made that point. It's very important. Again, going back to what I was saying before, religion is proper adjustment, right? All of these principles, they have to be adjusted precisely according to the circumstances and what is our position relative to those circumstances. So yes, very, very nice you brought that up. But we're just about out of time. Prema Sindhu Prabhu has just joined us from South Africa. Dandavad, Prema Sindhu Prabhu. We're just about to close our meeting for today, but happy we could have you with us for a moment. It's an honor. Any last comments from anyone before we end? Govindanandini, perhaps, or anyone else want to share?
Well, Srila Govinda Maharaj once told me, I told Govinda Maharaj, I said, sometimes I feel so badly about myself that I don't get motivated devotionally, poor self-esteem issues. And he told me, he said, sometimes humility is not appropriate. And then he said, also, sometimes tolerance is not appropriate. He said, if someone is harassing your wife on the train, you cannot tolerate. That's what he told me. So there's some limit. Yeah. There's some limits.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Very nice. Very nice. Yes, we have to be discriminating, right, in how we apply these things. Okay, well, it's been a really wonderful discussion today, as always. It's always fresh, isn't it? It's always fresh, always new. Thank you all so much for giving me your wonderful company, and that we have our group here giving each other good company. Wishing you all a enlivening week ahead, and look forward to next time. Jai Shri Bhakti Goswami Maharaj ki jai. All the assembled devotees, sincere seekers ki jai. Shri Hari Ram ki jai.
Jai.
Dandavad.
Jai.